At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Owning a boat comes with a number of perks, like being able to say, ahoy, or land ho, and not feel weird about it. So here's another perk. Geico's boat insurance offers access to the largest towing fleet on the water. And with specialist support from agents that are as passionate about boating as you are, there's so much value that you'll want to say, shiver me timbers, and not feel weird about that either. Get more with Geico.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, you're running over, that's for sure. You already knows all about you. Cut you down, don't murder by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And today we are continuing Scorched, the state versus Scott Peterson, part whatever it is. We're in the death penalty phase. And these people, y'all, I don't get it. You hear me every week say this, and it just gets worse today with these witnesses that I'm going to read to you. Their direct testimony blows my mind, and I get it. The defense is trying to make him look as human as possible. One of the lifers responded from California, and she was, explained it, but I knew that. I know what they're trying to do, but the people that they're putting up there, some of them barely even had contact with this dude in 20 plus years and had known him since he was a kid or whatever. It's just too much. And again, I just keep thinking, if I was in that jury and I had heard all that shit he did with Amber Fry and again, seeing the autopsy photos and hearing how they were, Laci and Connor were brutally murdered, I would want this motherfucker to burn, right? So I guess they are trying to bore him to death with these people. And like this, some of the ones I'm going to read y'all today are shorter. Stupid. Like his high school superintendent. What the fuck? And they're trying to say there's a reason to keep him alive, that he could thrive in prison, and he's a good dude and never got mad and, just did this, and he's got everything in him but the devil, right? And, let's talk about that real quick. He got his ass beat, and I think I did I might have talked about it on last week's show, but he got his ass beat in the Snitches prison in California. They were on the yard and one dude just beat his ass, and the correctional officers had to respond and use mace basically, or freeze plus P, and spray them down and stuff like that and get them separated. And they both had minor injuries, but somehow the news media gets a hold of this cat that beat Scott's ass and says, "Oh, did you do it because he's Scott Peterson?" He was like, "No, I didn't do it for that." And they said, "Why'd you do it?" He said, "Well, God told me to whoop him." God told me to give that boy a beating, right? However he phrased it. And so he did. And he said, "Guess what? I'd do it again." And this is in the prison where they house all, former law enforcement and priests and, snitches and, high profile people that if they were in general population, like Scott used to be in San Quentin, naturally when he was on death row, right? They'd killed his ass, or they'd turn him out, or they would do whatever. His charm will only get you so far. But I don't know. The defense team spared no expense when it comes to the actual I don't even know how they found some of these fucking people, much less they remember them. But when we get started, this time it's the infamous or famous, however you want to call him, Mark Geragos, the attorney, is doing a direct examination, and it's of a guy named Ronald Roger Rowe, and this is on December the 6th of 2004. So Geragos says, "Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Rowe. Could you tell the jury, obviously you are here for Scott's case, and you know Scott Peterson how?" Rowe: "As a student in the district in which I was a superintendent and principal for some 37 years, and 6 years before that as a teacher there in the same district." Geragos: "And we called you up to tell the jury what you know about Scott back then when he was in, I guess, grade school. Is that correct?" Rowe: "That's correct. Grade 6, 7, and 8. Geragos: "How did you come to the location there in Rancho Santa Fe?" Rowe: "It was my good fortune to be selected to be a teacher in the school district back in 1958. And I moved there following return to active duty in the Navy in 1961 and 62 to become a teaching principal. And in 1964, when my predecessor decided to return to university work, I was named the district superintendent. And I came there following service as a teacher in Kansas City, Missouri for 2 years and in Coronado, California for 1 year." Geragos: When Scott came through the school, what grade you say was the first time you have some memory of him? Rowe: "Grade 6. Geragos: "Grade 6. And at that point, what was your position at the school?" Rowe: "I was a principal superintendent." Geragos: "Would you say, is this what kind of school? Small, large?" Rowe: "It was at the time a school of 400 plus students in a community of about 2,500 individuals. It was a K through 8 school district, all in one campus. So Scott was a student on that same campus in the last year of elementary school, which is grade 6, and the only 2 years of junior high school, grades 7 and 8. Geragos: "When you saved your yearbooks, I guess throughout the years when you were teaching, is that correct?" Rowe: "For most of the years, yes. I believe you have pages from the yearbook of 1983 and 84 when Scott was a 6th grader. Yes." Geragos: "When I met with you this morning, you handed me, I made some copies. Judge: Mark those on the record." Geragos: "Yeah, I'm going to as soon as." Geragos: "These 2 pages?" Rowe: "Yes." Geragos: "Out of that yearbook?" Rowe: "Yes, this is a class picture." Here it goes. That would be D9N-2. Judge. Okay. Photo of the defendant. Right. Yes. And this picture. Junior varsity football, the fall of 1983. And he is the third from the right top row next to Chris Love. There it goes. Okay. That was D9-1. It's been a number of years since you've seen Scott Peterson. Is that correct? Right. That's correct. Yeah, guys. You do have, as you sit here, you have a memory of him? Right. Yes. As a small school, enrolling only 400 students, it was my privilege to have the opportunity to visit each classroom several times a week, in some cases, almost daily. There it goes. And that's Scott, third from the right in the back row. Right. That is correct. There it goes. And that was D9N-1, and this is D9N-2. That's Scott right there. Right. Yep. That's correct. There it goes. Okay. And your memory of Scott at that point was what? As what kind of student? Right. He was cooperative, industrious young man, fit in well with his classmates, cooperative with his teachers, dependable, a bit quieter than many of his classmates, and in all regards was a fine school citizen at those 3 grade levels, grades 6, 7, and 8. Gary, guys, how did you see him, or did you notice how he interacted with others? Right. He fit in well with his students as the years went on, and there weren't that in grade 6, 7, and 8. He became particularly active in the golf program, which the course is adjacent to the school. And so I would notice that he and other youngsters from his class or grade level, actually some of them were in the same grade level, different class, were together to golf. Gary goes, Did you ever have any problems with him in any way, shape, or form? Right. I recall no problems. Gary goes, okay. Row, none. Gary goes, you had mentioned today that he was a little quieter than the others. Did you find that to be a problem? Right. I thought it was kind of a blessing at times. Gary goes, and do you know why you're here today? Right. The jury is being asked by the prosecution to put Scott to death. Gary goes, do you have an opinion as to whether or not that's something you would recommend to the jury? Right. That he be put to death? Gary goes, yes. Right. I couldn't recommend that. It certainly was nothing that would have been predicted at the time he was a young man of 12, 13, and 14 years of age. I suppose it's typical of a small school district, teacher or principal or superintendent, to find things from his or her students to look at, hope that each of their lives will be in accordance with the promise that they exhibit during those formative years. And certainly, Scott was a young man in whom I had great confidence, and nothing that I could envision then or now would suggest to me that the death penalty is appropriate for him. Gergos, thank you. I have no further questions. Wow. All right, y'all. Really? I had a high school, there was 250 in the whole school, K through 12. And of course, the principal knew me because I was a badass. But yeah, if you got 2,500 students in a couple grades, and you're going to tell me you just know Scott was special? Get the fuck out of here. Okay, y'all, continuing with the theme for today. We got defense attorney Mark Gergos. He's now going to interview a guy named Marvin Threat. Threatt. I don't know how you say it. This is on December the 6th, 2004. And Gerhardt says, call you Dr. Threatt because you have a PhD in education, correct? Threatt. Yes. Gerhardt. Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? I know Cindy was, and if you're a woman, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living rent-free in our environment right now, found in our food, water, and even in our skincare products. These disruptors can wreak havoc on our hormones. Believe me, before Hormone Harmony, I watched Cindy suffer. Not anymore. Hormone Harmony's formula, made only with herbal ingredients, have reduced Cindy's hormonal symptoms, and it helps women of all ages. Then there are the natural hormonal changes our bodies face, such as menopause. While these processes are part of life, they don't have to be uncomfortable. The good news is that you don't have to suffer through it any longer. Hormone Harmony contains science-backed herbal extracts known as adaptogens, designed to help the body cope with stressors, including those chaotic hormonal fluctuations that can disrupt your daily life. Whether it's PMS symptoms like irritability and cravings, or menopause symptoms such as hot flashes and night sweats, Hormone Harmony can help with it all. Happy Mammoth, the creator of Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to improving women's lives by using only high-quality science-backed ingredients. They make no compromises on quality, ensuring that you receive the best support possible. This isn't just a supplement, it has become a phenomenon. Women are talking about it everywhere, with a bottle of Hormone Harmony sold every 24 seconds. And the most important benefit, women express feeling like themselves again. A sentiment echoed in over 30,000 positive reviews. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com. Don't forget to use the code RLRC for 15% off today. Did you know there's an online cannabis company that ships federally legal THC right to your door? And they found a way to combine THC with carefully selected functional ingredients to target nearly every mood and health concern you can think of. I'm talking about Mood.com's incredible line of functional gummies. And you can get 20% off your first order at Mood.com with promo code RLRC. Forget one-size-fits-all supplements that only get you high. Mood's functional gummies are optimized to kick in as little as 15 minutes and take you to the mood that you're looking for. Whether that's Mind Magic gummies for deep work and creativity, PMS support to ease cramps and balance mood swings, or their sexual euphoria gummies to help you feel ready for action and turn every touch into a full body experience. Look, y'all, you know I have trouble sleeping. I take the Sleepy Time gummy. I take a quarter of one before I go to sleep, and I sleep hard all night long. Never even move, wake up feeling fresh as a daisy. So listen, you can find gummies to just get you high pretty much anywhere these days. But Mood's functional gummies combine premium federal legal THC with targeted botanicals to help you get into that perfect mood, usually in as little as 15 minutes. And everything ships discreetly right to your door. No dispensary lines, no awkward conversations, just better days and nights delivered to your doorstep. Best of all, not only is every Mood product backed by a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get 20% off their first order with code RLRC. So head to Mood.com, find the functional gummy that matches exactly what you're looking for, and let Mood help you discover your perfect mood. And don't forget to use promo code RLRC when you check out to save 20% on your first order. And can you tell me a little bit about your background? Threatt. Born in Birmingham, Alabama, I joined the Navy at 18 years old and spent 22 years in the Navy. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I left the military and I began teaching. I finally retired from teaching. Gerhardt. During the course of your career, at some point were you located down in San Diego and head of, dean of students for a particular school? Threatt. From 1985 to 1992, I was a dean of students at the University of San Diego High School. That's where I knew Scott. Gerhardt. As dean of students, what is your job? Threatt. My job as Dean of Students was to keep order and discipline on the campus. School was approximately 1,500 students. My job was to make sure that everyone did what they were supposed to do. There it goes. And you didn't teach at the school. You were basically in charge of law and order. Is that correct? Correct. I taught for one semester, and they made me vice principal after the first semester, so I only taught very briefly. There it goes. Scott was a student when you were there? Correct. Yes. There it goes. And you left shortly after he graduated. Is that correct? Correct. I left in 1992. Yes. There it goes. During the 3 years that he attended high school, you were the dean of students. Is that correct? Correct. Yep. There it goes. You remember him from when he was there? Right. I remember him in passing. As dean of students, did not necessarily, they didn't necessarily come to talk to me or to have coffee with me, but my job was to stand in the middle of the school to make sure everyone knew that I was there. And in that process, I saw him passing many times. I saw him frequently during the school year. Yes. There, guys. If he had been in trouble or a troublemaker, things like that, would it have been more likely that you would have encountered him? Right. That is the most significant thing. The fact is, during his junior year, I don't remember him at all. In his senior year, I do remember him quite well. If there had been any problems, he would have been in my office. The factor that I can't say most significant the whole time that I was there, he was never in my office for any disciplinary purposes. There it goes. You know a nun by the name of Sister Joan? Right. Yeah, she was in charge of the Christian Service Project there. Here, guys. Okay, as part of the Christian Service Project, did that entail going to work at the orphanages in Tijuana? Correct. Exactly. Here, guys. Things like Habitat for Humanity and such kind of charitable endeavors. Correct. Exactly. Here, guys. In talking with you, you are aware that Scott participated in those activities. Right. Yeah. I knew at the school we gave the students time to go do the Christian service during the school day. It was significant that in that time, many students would not come back to school on time. They would leave at maybe 10 o'clock in the morning and required to be back at 1 o'clock. Many students would come back late. But the things I recall mostly about Scott is that he did always come back on time. He was never late. He was punctual. He was reliable. He was responsible. Yes. Here, guys. Would that require, at that point, high schoolers actually crossing the border to go over to Mexico? Right. Actually, yeah, went into Tijuana. And they would spend maybe 4 or 5 hours there. In addition to that, Scott not only worked with the orphanage in Tijuana, he worked locally with the mentally retarded and the beach communities in San Diego on his own time, beyond the allotted hours in Tijuana. Here, guys. Is that a home or a residential area for the threat? Mental retarded? I think they were young children who needed help, and I think that as Scott, on the weekends, would spend time helping them after he had finished the schoolwork and done his Christian service hours in Tijuana. Now, to graduate from the school, every student was required to do 100 hours of Christian service. So he did his Christian service hours in Tijuana, and he would do his own volunteering outside of there in San Diego. There he goes. Is that one of the reasons that you have a memory of him? Threat. Yes. Gary goes, did you, during the time that you were there, was Sister Joan the nun particularly close with Scott that you were aware of? Threat. Exactly. I think he worked very closely in the Christian Service Project, and she was the director of the project, the Christian Service Program, as well as the athletic program. The attendance programs were supervised under my office. That's why I knew her and knew of him. Sister Joan knew him quite well, because she saw him in that capacity more readily than anybody else, I think. Gary goes, was the other person that you could say that he was closest to? You mentioned that you supervised. I guess you kind of held the title of athletic director? Threat. Yes. Gary goes, the other person that spent the most time with him, at least an authority figure, would have been David Thonies? Threat. His golf coach. Yes. Gary goes, thank you. I have no further questions. Holy fuck, y'all. I mean, come on, man. Scorched. I don't get it, but continuing, let's go to David Thonies. It's Thoennes. I don't know how to say that. It's definitely not a Louisiana name. But Gerhardt calls him to the stand, and it's on December the 6th, death penalty phase, and he's doing the direct examination. I'm just going to call him David because I can't say his last name. So he gets on the stand. Gerhardt says, good morning, Mr. David. David, good morning. Gerhardt goes, you, as Dr. Threat just mentioned, you are a coach and teacher at Uni High? David, correct. Gerhardt goes, and my understanding is that you taught there as well in world history. Is that right? David, yes. Gerhardt goes, and computer and typing? David, correct. Gerhardt goes, how did you come to Uni High to teach at Uni High? David, I was released from active duty in the Navy as a lieutenant in 1964. It's hard to find a job teaching in November, but I went up to the uni to see if maybe they needed substitute teachers or anything, and was hired and began in late November of 1964. Gerhardt goes, did you start as a teacher there or as a coach? David, as a teacher. Gerhardt goes, as a teacher, at some point they appointed or anointed you basketball coach for JV basketball? David, I was freshman and junior varsity basketball coach for 8 or 9 years. Gerhardt goes, at some point, did you become coach of the golf team as well? David, yeah. The golf in 1967, the golf coach retired or resigned, and I was appointed golf coach at that point. Gerhardt goes, at that point, had you ever golfed yourself? David, very little. Gerhardt goes, did you end up having to teach yourself how to golf in order to become a golf coach? David, yes. Gerhardt goes, you also just recently had heart surgery. Is that correct? David, correct. 6 weeks ago. Gerhardt goes, and you decided to come up anyway. Is that correct? You wanted to testify. David, yeah. I felt that I owed Scott's parents and Scott. Gerhardt goes, okay, do you remember when you first met Scott? David, I never had Scott in a class, but our first contact was when he tried out for the golf team his freshman year. Garrett goes, okay, when he tried out for the golf team his freshman year, did he make it? David, yes. Garrett goes, and were you struck, or what were your first impressions of him? David, I don't remember a whole lot about his freshman year. I know that he played in a few matches his freshman year. From his sophomore year on, he was junior and senior, and he was a starter and most valuable player in his junior and senior year. Gary goes, at some point on that team, I know you've been modest about it when I talk to you. That team, during those 4 years that he was on the team, it produced quite some good golfers, did it not? David, in fact, there is, I had 3 Southern California state champions. In the girls division is Christy Err in the girls division, Phil Mickelson and Manny Zerma in the boys division. Gary goes, some of those went on to and still do play professionally, correct? David, yes. Gary goes, I asked you yesterday because I was candid with you. I don't play golf, but I have often heard to some degree you can, if you play a lot with somebody, you could tell several things about people's character, the personality trait. Would you agree with that? David, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Gary goes, would you say that you spent a considerable amount of time with Scott Peterson over those years that you were his coach? David, during the golf season, definitely. I also got to know Lee Peterson pretty well. He would, before Scott was able to drive, Lee was always down there to pick him up. He came early, and Lee and I played together quite a bit during that time. Also, Scott and his mom and dad were gracious enough to invite me out to their club to play on several occasions. So I got to know all of them pretty well. And I think I am able to judge character pretty much with Scott. Gary goes, could I ask you when you saw him, and I guess the best way, you, at some point, instituted during that 4 years when he was there, naming a captain of the team. Is that correct? David, it's correct. Gary goes, who was the first captain you ever named? David, Scott. Gary goes, you were the one who appointed him captain? David, yes. Gary goes, why was that? David, well, our campus was very close to the course that we played, Stardust Country Club, and the students would be let out early to get down and warm up before a match. And I normally stayed until the end of school. By the time I got down to the course, the other team had arrived. Scott kind of took it on his own to kind of get the guys organized and, get things done. So when I got there wasn't a lot of responsibility that I had. Scott kind of taking care of everything. Guys, you would see him play with either or coach him, all of the interaction. Did you ever, what kind of impression did you have of him? David, Scott was an excellent player. I guess number one, I never saw Scott lose his temper. A golfer with a tendency to hit a bad shot, and that's when their real personality starts to come out. Scott was able to, if he hit a bad shot, he went on, played the next one. He accepted responsibility for what he had done, and he continued on. Gary goes, did he show you respect? David, absolutely. Gary goes, in what kind of ways? David, well, respect is kind of a hard thing to define. Scott gave his respect to anyone. We played in a league with a lot of inner city schools, and some of the players that Scott had to play against were really poor players. Scott was shooting in the 30s. They would be shooting in the 60s. You can become very impatient in a situation like that. I never saw any impatience out of Scott. I never saw him throw a club or yell or scream. Here, guys. Would he become, when you say he wouldn't be impartial, would he go out of his way to do positive things with these kids who may not have been as skilled as he was? Teach them anything? Things of that nature? David. More so with his teammates, helping them on the driving range and on the putting green and those types of things. Garrigus. Did you see him interact with his parents as well? David. Yes. Garrigus. And can you tell me, was he respectful or devoted to them? David. I would say he was devoted to them. A lot of kids would go out on the weekends on their own. Scott, he played golf with his parents. Very devoted. Garrigus. I asked you yesterday about, I assume you have seen and coached over the year. How many years were you there? David. I was at the University of San Diego High School for 39 years. I coached for 32 years on the golf team. Garrigus. Do you mentally at least put down on paper somewhere, at least in your brain, your kind of top 10 students or players of your career? David. Yeah. I established what I call my all-star team. And Scott is on that all-star team. Still is. After 32 years of coaching, with an average of 14 kids on a team, I don't know what that comes out to, but Scott is in the top 10 of those. And not only does your score count to get into that, but your attitude toward the team and your assistance to the team, just your overall personality. Garrigus. I assume that he made your all-star team? David. Yes. Garrigus. Well, before any of this happened, is that correct? David. Yes. Garrigus. If I were to ask you, is he also in your top 10? Now, withstanding his aptitude for golf or ability to play golf, just in terms of what kind of young man he was, would he also make the top 10? David. Absolutely. Garrigus. You know you are here today. You know why we're here today, and I assume that you perceive some great promise in Scott as his coach. David. Yeah, he's one of the finest young men that I coached, and I knew he would be a success in whatever he did. Garrigus. Has it caused you great pain? What's happened here? David. Yes, it's unbelievable to me. Garrigus. Why is that? David. I just can't imagine anything like this from the young man that I knew. Garrigus. The jury is being asked to put him to death. Do you have a reaction to that? David. I'm definitely against it. Garrigus. Thank you. I have no further questions. Oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? Okay, he's on the all-star team now, y'all. He's such a wonderful person and just couldn't have cut his own flesh and blood out of his wife's stomach and threw him in the water like trash. But continuing on, try to get another one out of the way. And it's our Mr. Mark Garagos again, and the witness is Charles P. Courtney. This on December 6, 2004. Garagos. Good morning, Mr. Courtney. Courtney. Good morning. Garagos. You described yourself as a golf pro to me this morning when I was talking to you. Is that right?
Owning a boat comes with a number of perks, like being able to say ahoy or land ho and not feel weird about it. So here's another perk. Geico's boat insurance offers access to the largest towing fleet on the water. And with specialist support from agents that are as passionate about boating as you are, there's so much value that you'll want to say, shiver me timbers, and not feel weird about that either. Get more with Geico.
Courtney. That's correct. That's my title these days. Garagos. You had worked at a club. What was the name of the club? Courtney. The Rancho Santa Fe Golf Club. Garagos. For how long? Courtney. I started there in June the 1st of 1983 until I was the head professional / director of golf until July 1 of this year, at which time I became the professional emeritus at the club. Garagos. In that role, did you have people who worked for you at the club? Courtney. I did. Lots of young people. Garagos. Do you have a policy against hiring members' kids? Courtney. Well, there's nothing official, but I had some sort of mental stop when it came to hiring our members' children or the kids from the community. Garagos. There's a reason for that? Courtney. Well, they're precocious young people, and we're not. Some of them precocious. Very bright as a group, but unreliable and a little bit, if you will, flaky from time to time. And so I was just very reluctant to hire the local kids. I usually got some kids from Solano Beach or Del Mar, hopefully closer in areas. But our Rancho kids, by and large, I've only had a couple of them work for me over all these years that were worth a darn, frankly. Garagos. Scott Peterson was one of those? Courtney. Absolutely. Scott was one of them. He was a terrific young employee for us and member in general. Yeah. Garagos. How long? I know it's been a number of years. Courtney. It has been. Garagos. How long did you estimate he worked for you? Courtney. I can't be sure. And seeing how I'm not an employer anymore, my situation changed a little bit. The club took over all the employees some years ago, in the late 90s. So eventually I, through all my employment, put away the employment records. So I can't recall exactly when Scott was my employee or how long, but I'm quite sure it was more than a year and probably 2 years. Just not sure. Garagos. Okay. During that time, did you interact with him on a daily or 3 or 4 times a week basis? Courtney. Yeah. As he was, of course, a son of a family that was a member of the club, and also as an employee. And Scott was always very reliable. And from the standpoint of being a member and following the rules and being just a great kid. And he was a very reliable employee as well. Garagos. What kind of things would you have him do? Courtney. Well, his main job was to pick up the golf balls from the driving range, which is like the bottom end of the pool. It sometimes can be dangerous, boring, cold. You have to go out there in the evening, so on. I remember one specifically time that our equipment had tended to not be the finest or the best, and our picker power pack has a cage on it, which the driver stays inside. So when he's picking up the balls, he doesn't get hit with any other golf balls. And guess what? The picker broke down, and I kind of demanded of Scott. I don't think I would do that today, but I did that. I demanded of Scott go out and pick up the balls. Put a hard hat on and pick up the balls. Ride around in another unit. He objected, as anybody should have, and he did it. I wouldn't say with a smile on his face necessarily. Just a great kid to have around the place and to have, reliable. Okay, guys. Did you ever see anything in him that would indicate to you that he'd be sitting here today dealing with this, Courtney? Nothing in my recollection that you can't reconcile what's happened with what I knew about him as a young man. He was just outstanding with his family and as an employee, as a club member, no problem. It's shocking, guys. I gather just from knowing you the last day or so, pretty good sense of humor and can rip at people a little bit. Did you used to do this with your employees, and particularly Scott? Courtney. Not so much about his behavior as a performance as an employee, but Scott had a little technical thing. I'm sure he can remember this. Our golf shop was right behind the first tee in those days, so the staff could stand right there in the window and watch as he was going to go out and play with Jackie and Lee in the afternoon. And in particular, as a younger golfer, he had this, it's technical. It wouldn't probably mean anything to the court or the jury. He had a tendency, because of the way he did his golf swing, his ball would just go off to the right. Go off the right into the rough. He did that for a year or two. And as staff, I was always interested in him doing better. I tried to get him to adjust his grip so he didn't hit that slice. I always try to tell him, Scott, you got to quit hitting that slice and hit a hard hook. It took ribbing. We got him to do that. It took a little ribbing. I could be a little tough on him. He didn't mind. We finally got it done, and as the court has heard, he turned into a pretty darn good little player. Gary, guys, did you ever have going back to what I've asked you before, not hiring the members' kids, or not wanting to? I assume there was some, stereotype, come from privilege, that the kids of privilege generally have an attitude or a snobbery about them. Did you ever see that with Scott? Courtney, never. Gary, guys, how would you characterize his personality? Courtney, easy to be around, quiet. Somebody else mentioned earlier, very responsive and respectful of the staff. I say that because I can contrast it against some of our other precocious young people we've had in the community. I'm not saying they're bad kids, but they do come from some privilege and maybe wear it on their sleeve once in a while. Not so with Scott. Just a great young man to be around. Gary, guys, do you have, and you've heard me ask the questions of others, the jury is being asked to put Scott to death. Do you have an opinion on that, Courtney? Well, based on my experience with him, I don't think that should be so at all. Gary, guys, reason for that, Courtney? Well, just as such a fine young man that all the few years from about 84 until about 1990 when I knew him, this whole thing is inconceivable to me that this could be happening. That's almost about only the thing I could say, Mr. Gerhardt. Gerhardt, thank you. I appreciate you making the trip, Mr. Courtney. What the fuck? Y'all, come on. He doesn't even remember. I mean, he remembers them teeing off and slicing it. He remembers sending him out to pick up golf balls with a fucking hard hat on one day and not the cage because the machine broke down. But at least this dude's, at least he tried to be a little bit honest and keep it in the context of it. Look, I only knew the motherfucker for about a year. And no, he wasn't a snob. And yeah, he worked for me and he was pleasant to be around. Who in the fuck will they put on the stand next? Right? I don't get it. I'm never going to get it. Yeah, it's going to continue. It's at this point, it's almost comical, except for I truly believe this is why Scott got sentenced to the death penalty. And while we're talking about this case to this day, I mean, like, if you're on the defense and everybody that I read today to you, the testimony, they're all ex-Navy. I get that. So that's a card they're trying to play. Respect for the military, from the principal to the golf coach to the guy that ran the golf course and whatever. All ex-military, retired military teachers. Okay, great. Sister Joan comes up again. Holy smokes. I don't even know if she's going to show up in the courtroom. I imagine she's dead by this point. But holy smokes, she and Scott are like super tight. And that makes a difference of him murdering Laci and Connor. Not. I don't know. I don't get it. It's Scorched. And this, as it goes on, it's just stupider. And his ass would definitely be going to San Quentin. Now, when we get done, I mean, you've heard me say it on the other episodes, the prosecution definitely scorched this case. And if I was on the jury up until this point, I don't know, because they found him guilty, but I'd had a real fucking hard time with some of the shit that they did not do in this case. And I've told you about it already, but I'll summarize it all up for you in the end. And you know what? The DNA test is still out there. And again, you better pray to God that it comes back to Scott Peterson. When I say they, I mean the prosecution. Better pray to God that it comes back to Scott Peterson and not some other sex offender or one of those dudes that was committing the burglary on the house or anybody else that they didn't investigate because they scorched the case. So I'm ending it for this week, y'all. I am only impressing this upon you about the tickets for the live show on July 19th because I know they're going to sell out if they haven't already sold out because I'm recording this early. And every time we do a live show and it sells out, then and we say, oh, sold out. Then people are like, oh, but I want to get a ticket. And then a lot of them are my best people, right? Like this show, I'm very, very thankful if their health continues. My mom and daddy are actually going to get to come see the show, which they never got to see me do one. And, the tickets are going to be gone and I don't want you to miss out. If you want to come see it, it's going to be a great time. Raw and unscripted. And yes, I'm going to curse in front of my mama, tell all the dirty deeds of the stories that I need to tell. But it's going to be a great time. And we're going to be there, for the weekend, hanging out, doing the stuff, the VIP afterwards, first drinks on me. So y'all hit the link, get your tickets, and LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, as always, it's my jam. And of this time, April the 8th, I'm still supposed to celebrity bartend with Kevin Kool-Aid Garrett, chief of detectives from East Feliciana, at the Walk-Ons Bistro in Zachary. I think it's April the 8th, whatever day I said in the past, but I'll let you know. But anybody that comes in and I serve you a drink, whatever tip you leave me is going straight to LOPA. Okay. And, LOPA will have a booth there and they'll help people get signed up as organ donors that day. Y'all, it's so very important. I mean, again, it's like being a true crime fan and knowing what a murder is one thing. If you're going through a murder like Miss Barbara and Haley's case or Miss Stephanie and Courtney's case or Mary Pichot's family or Miss Barbara Blunt, It's people, sister and them, wondering to this day what happened to her. When you're going through it, it's a different thing. I have met both sides. I have broke bread with both sides of people who were the heroes. Their family members gave up their organs. And I've met the people who have received the organs and are alive today because of the hero. LOPA is a nonprofit, and they help people get signed up, and they help these families through the transitions. And you don't have to be a lifer from Louisiana. You could be a lifer from Iceland. Go to lopa.org, fill out the questionnaire, become a hero, give the gift of life, sight, and all the rest of the stuff that they do. And I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. Until next time, or ever, don't let me catch you down murder by you. Peace.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Psst. The best time to get permanent Everlights for your home is right now. You'll get the best price of the year. You'll get installed quickly. And with Everlights, you'll have the brightest and longest lasting lights year round. Show your colors for the 4th of July, for your team's game day, and you'll beat the Christmas rush. Best thing is no ladders or installer takedown for years and years to come. Everlights is your everyday lighting solution for your home or business. Click the banner for a free quote for the year's best deal.